Growing up in a family of 6 and the only girl, life for Eva Kentaro Mugera was not that difficult because her mother and father were always present in her life. However, being a young girl among 3 boys meant that she had to work extra hard to prove herself. This explains why she has been able to defy the odds. Eva Kentaro, who goes by the slogan, "Always check your motive. If it looks or smells of ill will, then dump it. There's no lasting pleasure in being nasty," is a professional lawyer who owns her own law firm. She believes in consistent evaluation of oneself, hard work, and humility above all as the pillars of success. In this week's episode of Her Moment, we bring you the lovely Eva. Hello everybody and welcome to Her Moment. Now today we bring you another inspiring story from yet another person, another woman, another mother that has managed to conquer all the challenges of this world. I am Sandra Kahumuza, but let's do this and let's learn. Welcome, Madam Eva.
Thank you, Sandra.
We are super excited to have you on the show.
Same here.
Yes, you're looking very beautiful. I love your jacket.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you.
So first things first. Is there that one specific name they used to call you as a child?
Yes.
Like those nicknames they used to call us when we were little kids?
Yes. It's a short form for my name.
Yes.
Some people still call me that. They used to call me Kenta.
Kenta?
Yes,
Okay.
short for Kentaro. And those who really know me, like from way back, you'll find them calling me that.
So like at home or at school?
At home, at school.
You don't have these other names from the funny ones?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Like those other funny ones they would call you and you just feel like,
No.
I do not want that name at all.
No, I haven't got those.
So how was your childhood?
My childhood was, I think, pretty much like everybody's childhood. I come from a family of 4. We have 4 children. I have 3 brothers and
You're the
myself.
only girl?
Yes. My brothers are older than me. And we lived with our parents. And actually, my parents are still alive.
Okay.
And my mother was a teacher. She was a headmistress, so she was very strict.
Where?
Her last posting was Mengo Senior School.
So you stayed within the
No, we didn't stay within the school. We
No,
stayed
like
within
in
the
the
city, yes. But we never stayed at the school.
Yeah.
Yeah, we stayed within the city. And yeah, my dad was a public servant. So pretty much, our parents took us to school. Our dad always dropped us to school. And he picked us up from school every day. And pretty much like any urban family.
Yes.
Pretty much like any urban family.
Are
But
you the first or the second?
no, I'm the last.
Oh.
Yes, my brothers are older than me.
Okay, so where are
Yes.
they now?
My brothers work, they're married, they have families, and they live here in Kampala.
How was it growing up with just brothers and no sister, no bigger sister or little sister? Did you at any point in your life feel like, oh, I wish I had a baby sister?
Of course, somebody to, so bully around and push around.
Yes.
But I would say comfortably that
You were babied.
not
because
really,
you're the
that's what
only girl.
everybody thinks. That's what everybody thinks, but I think that really all eyes on you. And also because my mother was very strict and is still very strict, there was no room for you to fool around or mess around. So I pretty much grew up in a home that was filled with love. We didn't have conflict.
Yeah.
We never saw any conflict. We never experienced conflict between our parents. So pretty much we just like any family here, really, any urban family.
Yeah. Did your brothers ever bully you or try
Of
to make
course
you
they
feel like
did.
you're not?
Of
because
course
they're
they
just
did.
boys.
Yes, of course they did. When you'd upset them or they'd want to make you feel bad, they would say, you know what, you're not our sister. We were driving by this lonely place. Then there was a baby crying in a crib. Then mommy felt sorry. Then mommy just said, let's put her in the car. And you know, every time they'll tell me that, of course you'll go reporting. And after some time they had to drop it because it would really, really upset my mother. But honestly, they were good brothers, and they're still good brothers. So
Any challenges while growing up?
I think while growing up, like any young girl, was the conflict in the mind as to whether you can ably compete for certain things. You can be
considering you are with boys.
Yes,
at home.
you can be who you want to be. But I think also growing up with boys in some way or another helped me, because I had to keep up with them. So I had to do all the things that possibly they would do.
Yeah.
And because they were also older than me, I had to catch up and, try to fit in with them. So I did pretty much what any person would do. I could climb trees.
Ride a bicycle.
Could ride a bicycle. I started driving early. I learned how to drive very early. And I think the biggest challenge was that sometimes, because you are the youngest and because you are in this position which people think is privileged, people expect you to be very spoiled, and people sort of, draw up all sorts of conclusions and suppositions around you. But, as you grow up and you begin to prove to other people that, just like any other child, then that fades away. But also school also helped.
Did you go to a single school?
Yes, I did.
School,
yes, I did.
Or?
I went to Kitande Primary School for my primary school. Back then it wasn't yet UPE. It was a good school, very good school. And then I went to Gayaza High School for 6 years. And in Gayaza, we were basically told that you can be whoever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. You can be like anybody you want to be like, for as long as you set your mind to it, and then you work towards that goal. For me in life and also at home, my dad would always teach us that there is nothing that's impossible.
Yeah.
Start with the end. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to get. And then you figure out the how to.
Yes.
But there was nothing like it's impossible. I remember when we were growing up, you'd ask my dad the meaning of words, like if you were doing your homework, and he would not tell us. He would say no. He would
Find out for yourself.
He would say you're being mentally lazy. We have 3 dictionaries in this house. Check. And that taught us to, go the extra mile. There's nothing like saying, I failed, I can't do this. You always had to have the answers to stuff. For my mother, it was, the disciplinarian, teaching us, making sure we do housework. I remember when we were growing up, she used to, she would hide stuff. She would hide, little pieces of papers, behind the chairs or behind the toilet door on the day you were cleaning. And then she would come back and check. And we had house helps. But when we're in the holiday, you'd really, really work. So she would hide them just to make you see that you shouldn't just look at, the places that are obvious. Always look for the secret places, always look for the secret behind things. So we grew up always, having your guard up that, I could be checked out at any minute. Yeah. So, yeah.
And then primary school.
Yes.
You were in a single-sex school again.
No, primary school, Kitande Primary School is a mixed school.
Oh, it was
We
mixed.
had boys and girls. Yes.
Did you ever face challenges as a girl there, considering at home you're probably pampered a bit, and then now you're in school and things have probably changed?
First of all, at home I was not pampered.
Okay.
No, I just had a distinctive position that I'm just this girl, and I have my father's name, my father's mother's name, my grandmother's name. So that was the only thing. But at school, of course, we were bullied as girls. Now for me it was even very complicated, because they knew I had a brother in P6 when we were in P1, and so they feared a bit. But still they used to bully me. They used to bully me about, I was very short. So the short girls would always have to line up at the front, and I didn't want to line up at the front.
No.
So I'd always be at the back, and then they would push you to the front.
Yeah.
But because of survival instincts, as you grow up, you learn how to survive.
You definitely have to.
Yes, and then at some point, then they realize that they can't bully you anymore,
Yeah.
and they leave you alone.
So did you have dreams as a child? I know every child in there has dreams. Did you have those specific things that you wanted to be?
I had.
I want to be a doctor. I want to be
I
a
had
pilot.
very, very. The dreams I had, I wanted to be a pilot first of all. Because in my mind, as a pilot, one, I would have a lot of money.
And you would travel everywhere.
But I would have the opportunity to travel the whole world, just breeze in and breeze out. And then also possibly since I'll travel the whole world, I'll have all these nice things. But then, you know, as you go on, then you realize, okay, to be a pilot, you need to understand physics very well.
Were you good at science subjects?
I was good at chemistry on its own as a subject, but the rest I was really an average student. No, biology, they told us that in A-level would have to split rats, like cut rats open. So that one I just shut down. Then with physics, you know, there were all these things, pendulum, bob, all sorts of things swinging. So I didn't really, I just made sure I did it just to pass, but I wasn't really keenly interested. Yeah. But chemistry I was interested because we had the opportunity to mix all these things, balance all these equations. It seemed interesting.
Yeah, quite easy.
Yeah, so
that was like A-level.
That was O-level.
O-level. So
yes.
A-level. Your
A-level, my
changing.
dreams started changing. I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, but also I decided that at some point I wanted to be a writer.
A writer.
Yes. Because I was very good at literature. But then, of course, you know, my dad sat me down and told me, you know, anybody can be a writer. Anybody can be a writer. So you can't apply to university to do journalism just because you want to be a writer. So you can actually be a lawyer and also a writer at the same time. So then I settled for law and I applied for law. So, but somehow I sneaked in the second choice as journalism. So yeah, I got admitted to do law as a government student.
So you were in, let me take you back a bit. You were in Gayaza for all the 6 years.
Yes.
Okay. So you applied to which university?
Makerere University. Yeah.
And you got law.
Yes.
At that point, there were no pre-entries?
No, there were no pre-entries. We survived. We survived. There were no pre-entries.
So you just...
Once you passed, I mean, we passed as government students. We got into Makerere, we got into halls of residences and started studying.
How was it in your first year? Like, you know, moving from a single-sex school. I know, yes, in primary you were in a mixed school, but now you were in a single-sex school for 6 years, for 6 good years. How was it now transforming to now the world, you're entirely on your own?
Okay, it was a bit strange. Okay, in Gayaza we saw boys. We used to see boys like for socials and what. But for a few hours, it was never enough.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, the first few hours were wasted in, you know, trying to make sure you looked good.
Yes.
Then by the time you realize the boys are about to go, there's very little time remaining. But anyway, we got to university, and I remember when I was going to university, my mother wrote me a letter. She didn't say anything. She didn't even sit me down like for a lecture because I was waiting for it. I was anticipating. And I kept on practicing what kind of serious face I would make, you know, when she's giving me this lecture. But she didn't. She wrote to me a letter. And that week when I was going to university, when I was about to start university, she gave me the letter in an envelope where she had given me the pocket money. So I sat down and I read the letter. The letter was basically telling me that, you know, we're not there anymore to see what you're doing, to restrain you. It's really up to you. But whatever you do, always ask yourself, if my parents heard that I was doing this, or if my parents saw that I was doing this,
would they be happy?
Would they be happy? What would they think? And I think that always restrained us, restrained me really as a student. So we got to Makerere. I mean, there was one day gear, first of all. One day gear seemed like it didn't sleep. It was a bustle of activity.
I know.
You know, with all this somersaulting chicken and these takeaways. But I think I remained focused on the fact that I really had to finish school, and I kept on remembering. Actually, I used to get out that letter and read it every so often. So I kept on remembering that I had to strike a balance between reading and studying hard and also having fun and exploring the world. So I had to strike that balance.
Yes. So were your parents really very instrumental in deciding whether you should do law, or it was entirely your own decision? Like you made, did you ever sit down with your parents and say, you know, mommy, daddy, I need you to like this direction?
Yes. You know, they would bring up, they would invite our parents to school when we were making those decisions. And for me, my parents asked me, so what do you want to do? Now at that time, I wanted to do law, but then my friends were applying for journalism. So my friends were like, but you, I thought we had agreed we are going to do journalism. So at that point, my father counseled me and he said, you know, anybody can be a writer, because I told you I wanted to be a writer. So he told me anybody can be a writer, but not anybody can be a lawyer. So you can be a lawyer and you can be a writer. So that's when I decided to do the law thing. Yes. And unfortunately, I haven't really pursued much my writing skills because of time. Time hasn't been there. But it's something that I hope I can do maybe in my later years, probably when I settle down. But I enjoy to read. I enjoy to read, and just to keep up with what's happening. So in a way, I think yes, my parents influenced me. Yes.
So anyway, still at the university, what challenges did you face? I mean, I know there's so much pressure that happens when you're at the university. You're seeing your friends having different things. They are traveling, probably they're driving, they're doing all these different things. Did you ever have certain sort of like pressures like coming onto you, and you just feel like, oh?
But you know, Sandra, the way you're asking, I was at university several years ago.
Yes.
We didn't have we had people had stuff, but it's not like what it is like today. So for me, we had the basics. I had the basics. I had a TV.
Okay, like probably entering someone's room and it has like literally everything you want to have in your own room.
Like what? A TV, a fridge? Those ones I had.
Poofers, big poofers. And
but the only thing that we used to really look at is people who used to go like abroad for holidays. What? And yeah.
Okay.
The biggest challenge I can tell you that was at university was striking a balance between studying and exploring the world. Disco, all that. And some of our friends that we had studied with actually failed to find that balance. Because the world is out there. I mean, all the places that you've been hearing, those days there was still Club Silk. I don't know if it's still there. There was Ange. Okay, there was Ange. All those places where we could go. So you really wanted to go and see what's at that place. But remember, the hall would close at midnight. And then remember, we were day students. You'd have class the next day. So you had to be very, very careful about how you balance the two. So for me, I think that was the biggest challenge at university. And then we also had strikes. The strikes would really paralyze everything, because sometimes you'd be at the other side of the university. I was a resident in Africa Hall. So while you'd be on the other side at law school, a strike would erupt and you can't cross over back to your hall of residence. So you would have to start, benching around in CCE and all that. But luckily we had friends there, so we were comfortable. So for me, I think the biggest challenge at university was really striking that balance. For me, that was the biggest challenge.
Is there that one special moment at the university that you enjoyed, that you felt like, this is something I could actually go back and do at the university?
Yes.
What was it?
I remember one time we had a trip. Okay. Our proggy was not like yours, you guys. So one time we had a trip, and the trip was to a park, a national park.
Where?
Mwea. And people used to organize those trips. So I had paid, because I thought if I asked my parents, my mother would start telling me stories, what. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go for this trip without telling anybody. So we had paid and everything had been sorted, all preparations were in high gear. And even packed, was supposed to be going that weekend. So that Friday, my mother calls me and tells me that her driver was going to come and pick me up, because I think we had some visitors who were coming home and she needed me to help her.
I can imagine. I can relate, actually.
Yes, I died like 10 times because I couldn't tell her about the trip that had been organized. And here was, my friends had already, sorted everything out. We had planned, we had saved for it, I had paid. And I knew how campus trips were, it was non-refundable. But also I was looking very funny, for my friends. My friends were thinking, but also didn't you know this proggy? But they also knew that I wouldn't tell her. I fear that, if I would tell her, she would think, what about school? When are you going to come back? The truth is that trip was going to be like 1 week away from school. But I had it all worked out that I would catch up. So I missed the trip. And for me, it was so devastating. I had to wait for my friends to come back and give me the whole... There was no social media like how it is like now, like you do WhatsApp pictures. So it was really devastating, considering that I had paid. I didn't get a refund.
And you also missed the trip.
I also missed the trip. And then I had to attend class, of course.
And which was the better...
Which was the better part, and my friends would catch up from me. But
yes. So is there anything at the university that you felt you did that you regret, and you feel like if God gave you a chance from heaven and said, you know what, Eva, change this? Is there that one specific moment that you changed?
I think if I had concentrated, first year was really exploring and struggling to balance. I think that probably would have got even better grades than we have. Not, of course we got good grades, but probably better grades. But I also think that I could have spent my holidays better.
Yeah.
Probably working with
A law firm.
things that relate to what I'm doing now, things that relate to my career. But probably God hadn't decided that was the time for me to do that. Yeah, so those are some of the regrets. Probably now I would be, in a teaching job somewhere.
So law school was 4 years?
Yes.
Then? 4 years.
Yes.
So how did you get out of did you go to LDC?
Yes.
So tell us about the experience with LDC.
So I went to
how
LDC.
you started actually your real journey as an advocate.
I went to LDC. I was 1 week late for LDC because I had gone on a holiday and I had got the dates wrong. So my mother met a parent to a friend of mine, and the parent, I discovered while I was still on holiday that school was about to start, but I needed to finish this holiday. So I didn't say, I kept quiet. So my mom met her friend who had a child who was studying with us. And her friend told her, oh, the Vincents went back to school. How is Eva doing? What? So my mother called. She called a relative that I was staying with in London. And she said, tell her she needs to come back as soon as possible because school has started. And I was like, but it's only 1 week. I will come back when it starts. So I came back for LDC. LDC was a shock for most of us because it was you being able to regurgitate what you had learned in the 4 years at university here. So you had to find ways of catching up. So we had to make friends with the ladies that photocopy, and we had to identify for them who the smart kids were at the time, who we thought were the very smart kids. So we'd tell them that, if you see Zuleika photocopying anything, photocopy for me, I'll come and settle you. Just to make sure I would catch up, because sometimes the smart kids didn't want to, give us their
share,
work.
Yeah.
Probably because they thought that while they were studying very hard, maybe we were just relaxing, in the apartments where we were staying or in the places where we were staying. So LDC was hard work. It was hard work, and I can tell you that even looking back today, I think that we passed by the grace of God. Because yes, we worked hard, but there are so many people who even worked harder than us that didn't make it through. The failure rate at LDC. It's never been any better. It's always been bad. So when I left LDC, I got a job. The month I left LDC, I got a temporary job with New Vision. With New Vision, I was just supposed to go through the papers before they go to print to see if there's anything defamatory that will get New Vision sued. And it was a crazy job. First of all, I was expected to come to work like at about maybe 11, 10, but I would not leave until about 7 p.m. And that taxi place like at the police, Ginger Road, it used to be very lonely. So my parents would worry about me, I'd get home late and all that. But the flip side was that I'd never earned money like that in my entire life by then. So
How much were you earning at that point?
I was earning like 780,000.
What? Your very first job?
Yes.
Okay. And you're just going through the papers, just seeing what could be.
Yes, but with my boss, I would get into trouble if something slipped.
But 700,000 at that point was a lot of money.
Yes, that was in 2004, 2006. Okay, not 2006, 2004.
Okay.
The first salary, I chewed the salary, it jumped to get finished. I bought some presents for like my mother, my father, but still I had money. So that was a flip
Did
side
you have
of the
like
job.
a saving culture in you, like feeling like I've gotten money, I should save and all that?
The money was for enjoyment only. There was nothing like that.
Okay.
So 2 months later, after being in that job, that was like the third month in that job, I got a job offer with Standard Chartered Bank. So I had to say goodbye to that job and leave. I left very well amicably. did my resignation and left. I went Standard Chartered, where I was going to earn, I think, 1,050,000.
Okay, you know what? Let's come back to that part a bit later on. For now, let's now go in for a short break. But when we return, we'll continue with Eva's story. And I know it is really, really the story that we really are looking for. Stay tuned to Rico TV.